I'm Jean Gray, publisher of American Entrepreneurship Today and host of the podcast series Experience Voices, where I talk with highly accomplished people who share the critical elements that led to their success. Being a successful entrepreneur is about seizing opportunities. Our guest today on Experience Voices is Trevor Laudate, co-founder of Ecodrive, a B2B climate tech platform that recently took first place at the San Diego Angel Conference. They were awarded a $300,000 investment. Today, Trevor shares how he and his partner, while working at an agency, learned about brands desiring to engage in social causes that resonated with their customer base. Connecting that insight with their prior experience of planting trees to offset carbon emissions triggered the funded business model they have today. It was a pleasure meeting you out at the San Diego Angel Conference, and congratulations on winning a $300,000 investment. So let's start off by explaining to the listeners your business model.
Yeah, definitely. And thanks for having me. First off, it was great to meet you as well. And I'm really excited to be here with you today. So what Ecodrive does is we partner with businesses to power the measurable climate action into their customer journeys. This is things like planting trees for online orders or pulling pounds of plastic from the ocean for every product that they sell. There's a lot of different ways that we're partnering with businesses across different industries, but it's really to show that customers do care about the environmental impact of their purchases or who they choose to support.
So give an example. Let's use the trees as an example. What type of client is using sustainability and trees together?
Yeah, we have clients in a lot of different industries. I think consumers care in just about all industries. Where we really have a lot of our relationships is in e-commerce, businesses that plant trees with us for online orders that they ship. Not only does it engage their customers at checkout, but it's helping them to increase conversions through calling that out to customers, saying, we're planting one tree with your order, and then driving retention. All of the trees are verified on the ground. So we have timestamps and geo coordinates, and our businesses are actually able to communicate that to their customers. And so we have a lot of success with e-commerce brands.
So this is quite an unusual model, candidly. It's on the climate tech side, it's on the sustainability side. So what was the origin of the idea for your business model?
Yeah, so how we started with Ecodrive was actually out of a digital marketing agency where we were working with for-purpose businesses to help them scale across e-commerce. So this is companies that have an impact when you shop from them. And so what we did was we took that impact, helped them to market that across digital marketing channels, and actually not only build a really successful business for good, but make more impact on the world through this model. And we pretty much fell in love with that model through there. And we decided to take that and build a platform around it, allowing businesses of all shapes and sizes to take an impact and drive ROI with it.
So when you participated in the San Diego Angel Conference, that was a great opportunity. The angels were in the room and they made the decision on the same day. Can you share, or did you have any insight as to what in your model separated you out from some of your competitors, or what you thought caught the eye of those investors in the room?
You know, I think a lot of people resonated with what we're doing. They see the need and the problem, right? What we always say is, have you ever gone to the grocery store and have been asked to donate at checkout? Most people say yes at that point. And then we follow that up with, okay, have you ever received any evidence that that actually happened? And so everybody has some sort of correlation with the fact that they might not trust going directly to nonprofits or where their money's actually going. And with Ecodrive, you can, because we have transparent technology that shows you all the way through. We do work with nonprofits that actually do the work on the ground too. So it's only amplifying the good work that they do. Where we stood out compared to our peers during the conference is we have a lot of traction. So we work with over 450 businesses now. And I think that really gave us a leg up against, the rest of the competitors in the competition. There was a ton of great companies, though, a lot of cool startups being built in San Diego. And so that was really cool to see, and, made a lot of good friends and built a great network of investors out of that conference.
So you're gaining the eyes of investors outside of the conference. How would you describe the investors themselves? Are they climate tech investors, sustainability investors, or, like you suggested, maybe people who are just passionate about solving climate issues?
Yeah, it's a blend, honestly. So our lead investor is a climate tech investor. Another VC fund that's involved is an impact fund, so a general impact thesis. And then we have a lot of angel investors that are just passionate about the work we're doing, really believe in our mission and what we can do in the world. And then, it's pretty surprising when I tell most people, but a lot of VCs that are interested in us are commerce enablement. They have commerce enablement theses because of the way that we work with businesses to actually drive revenue, where we can be this piece of their tech stack that actually helps them to see ROI on what they're doing with us. And so that's a lot of the traction that we have post the SDAC win is from commerce enablement VCs.
So when you were putting together the model and coming up with a roadmap to go forward, how much of an investment did you have to make in proving out both sides of the equation? One, you're going to have a platform that's appealing to corporations or companies, and on the other side, you're having to fulfill the verification that the trees are being planted or the plastic is being culled. What were your first steps in making this go from just a sort of an abstract idea to something that you could demo?
Yeah, I mean, it's a long journey. We bootstrapped in the beginning, which allowed us to be really close to our customers, understand their needs, understand problems without making too much of an investment in without product market fit yet. And so how we started was just working with some of those e-commerce companies at the agency that we were at, planting one tree for online orders. And we were partnered with nonprofits that were doing the tree planting at that time. That's where we learned great ways to market this. We saw that end customers really cared. The client loved that they were supporting environmental causes, but that's also where we saw the lack of transparency. When we were paying for some of the trees, we didn't get much besides a donation receipt back. And so, naturally grew to building in the verification because we knew that was a key piece to help our businesses avoid greenwashing, but then also expanding from just tree planting, because not all businesses, restoration doesn't align with a lot of businesses. And so ocean plastic removals was a key element to get a lot of partners on board, and building this platform that just makes it automatic for them to really embed this in a way that's not going to be a huge cost burden or time suck, and allows them to start taking environmental action right away.
It seems you were in a great position at the agency to see the pain point and also seeing how it was being solved inefficiently or ineptly.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we saw firsthand the lack of transparency from nonprofit to business and then business to consumer. And so that's where we saw the problem, but also the massive opportunity if you do just communicate what you're doing to your customers. And so that's really how it formed in the beginning.
So when you're now positioning the startup, how important was it for you to bring on someone really with a tech skill base? Were you using or drawing in a co-founder, or you were looking for experts outside of your area who could come in and plug themselves in to build out the model?
Yeah, that's a great question. So both me and my co-founder, when we left that agency, had no technical experience. We were savvy enough, but what we did initially was outsource the initial platform that we built. And that came with a lot of headaches, a lot of pain points. And what we ended up doing was bringing on a technical co-founder as soon as we launched the platform. What ended up happening is as soon as he came on, he pretty much redid the whole initial portal and all of the work that we did the prior 6 months to get that live. But now it's perfect. I would recommend that to people that are just starting off, if they're non-technical, to bring on a technical co-founder, because it makes your life a lot easier and it allows you to focus on what you're good at.
That becomes apparent, but for many non-techie people and non-techie entrepreneurs, is trying to find the right tech fit for the time of the startup and the nature of the startup. So did you resource with your own network, or were you well connected in the San Diego area that allowed people to float possible candidates in front of you?
Yeah, that's a great point that you make. I mean, you can't just hire just anybody and bring on a co-founder. That's a really big deal. We actually didn't give, the co-founder later label until a year into it. I think there's a lot of development that needs to go in. It was from our network as well. We are really fortunate to have a big network within the tech space and tech community. And it was just the perfect fit at the time. He was leaving one of his current positions. And so it made a lot of sense to bring him on. He was actually one of our good friends from college too. So we have a long-standing relationship, and it made things a lot easier because not only could we trust him on the technology side, you know the personality and the fit, and you're able to bring that in the early days. It's really important, and that does make it really hard for entrepreneurs in the beginning, if you aren't tech savvy, to go out and find a co-founder like that.
You built the first version of your platform, and then, as you said, you brought on someone with a tech background, and the first thing he did was rebuild it. So delving a little bit into the investment side of this, so was a certain amount of money set aside by yourself and your other co-founder to get what we'll call maybe the primitive prototype of what you were trying to achieve? And then after you got a certain amount of traction, the realization that you're going to need to raise a lot more money to build it the right way?
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. We self-funded it a little bit at the beginning, but again, we were actually managing our initial clients almost like an agency style, where we were helping them to plant trees and we were partnering, and the cash flow was a little bit better at that time. And so we were able to take some of that cash flow coming in and use that to develop the product initially. And so that's how the initial product got developed. Then we realized, once we formed more of a technology business in June of 2022, that, wow, now I understand why you need a lot of funding as a tech business. And so we ended up raising our first round of capital in November of 2022.
So that you would consider that a seed round?
That was our pre-seed round, technically.
And
Yeah.
so separate out for the listener what a pre-seed round is versus a seed round.
Yeah, it's I guess a newer concept in general, but it was more so just the level that we were at and the amount of clients and revenue that we took on. That's what classified it as more of seed or friends and family. Earlier days, we didn't really have product market fit, and we were still trying to figure out our path forward. And so what it was getting early investors on that really believed in us. We did the launch accelerator program with Jason Calacanis, and that was, really helpful for us to just figure out what fundraising looks like and how to go raise a larger round of capital. And so everything we acquired there not only helped us to build out our initial platform even more and hire some design resources and some extra developer resources, it also taught us how to go raise a larger seed round when we were ready. And so I think that's why we were so prepared going into the San Diego Angel Conference as well.
The entrepreneur who's needing funding is sort of in a cloud or a fog as to cart before the horse. How much do I have to build before I go out to raise, and how much do I have to raise so I can go out to build? And I think you just shared a really good piece of information about having gone through Jason's program and just clearing everything up for you as to how to put your path forward.
Yeah, totally. I will say to that entrepreneur, there's no answer. There's no right answer for that. It's really tough. It depends on a lot of outside factors as well as the investor that you're talking to. I think you really just have to go with your gut and build the business that you want.
So you have had funding come in. Did you start to break down the startup path into then stages or milestones as to where you were going to allocate the funds and what points you had to pass to keep the investors satisfied or happy that they gave you the funds?
Yeah, so we are still technically raising our seed round. We're just about finished off with it. So winning SDAC gave us a $300,000 investment into it, which brings us to a total of 950K committed on our $1.6 million fundraise. It actually was 1 million. We're oversubscribing to 1.6 with all the momentum that we currently have off of the SDAC win. But a lot of that is going towards fueling growth and expansion, hiring sales, marketing, as well as customer success staff, really with the goal of growing and scaling the company. The past fundraise pretty much all went towards technology, infrastructure, and our ability to find product market fit. And now that, we still have a lot of work to do on that side of things, but we're in a better position to scale what we do have now.
When you start getting commitments of that size, how long do you have to wait before you have access to the actual funds? Because you're saying you have 950, but you've been oversubscribed, so it's eating up a lot of time trying to get the release of money and let you have another sort of run. So kind of give a timing description of the money's coming in, but when do you really get it?
So it's interesting. We're actually raising our entire round on a safe. So we are actually already collecting the funding, which has been really good for us because it's kept us in business initially and now allows us to already start making investments in growth before we even finish up the full fundraise. And so if you're not familiar with a SAFE, it's a simple agreement for future equity. And we've been able to now get in after SDAC. They actually recently wired the money as well. And so we've gotten in a total of 650,000 of the 950 that was committed.
And on your build out that's going to go on, so you have 3 co-founders now?
Yeah, 3 co-founders.
And how quickly do you think you're going to be adding to actual hiring onto the team?
So we are taking this, we have a team of 9 right now. Our developers and technology side is really locked in. That's not where the initial funding's going. It'll go towards the first hire, which is going to be a CSM, a client success manager, which will allow me and my co-founder Blake to free up from some of that, as well as allow somebody to come in with experience and really take good care of our clients. And so that's going to be a great first hire for us. Then the rest is pretty much marketing budget to really help in the initial phases of capital deployment on the sales side of things.
Share a little bit about the client success manager.
Yeah, so the primary role for that, the responsibilities will be really acting as an account manager in the simplest terms for our business clients, working with them to ensure that they're fully set up with Ecodrive, they're messaging it out to their customers effectively, they're leveraging all of the tools that we have available for them, they're building case studies with them, they're generating referrals, and just there to handhold our customers every step of the way. We're starting to expand into the hotel industry, where hotels are partnering with us to incentivize their guests to opt out of housekeeping. That's saving the hotels a lot of money while helping them to hit their sustainability goals. And so the CSM will work hand in hand with our hotel customers to start.
So one of the challenges of scaling is keeping the culture very tight knit. So when you're bringing on new people, what's your hiring process or interviewing process? Does the person meet with all of the co-founders, or is there a specific interview questionnaire that you're using to keep the mindset the same of what you're looking for?
We're still trying to figure it out. We don't have that much experience just yet with hiring a big team. So we're using our resources, asking around the best ways to go about this. Right now, what we're doing is all of our co-founders are getting on and interviewing at different stages. We have different tests, and we really want to just make sure it's a good culture fit. And, with the startup, it's tough because you're hired for this specific position, but there's a lot of moving pieces all the time. And so just understanding it's the right fit for the company is a big part of what we look for in hires.
Are you looking for some assistance from your investors? Have one or two brought their background or experience that is serving as a complement as you're going through this stage?
Yeah, we have a few investors that are, really supportive in this regard, and they're there if we ever need them. And so as we start to make more hires and we go through that process, we've already began reaching out to them about best practices. We don't want to be too annoying either. So, but that's a big piece of what we look for, especially now that we're oversubscribing our round, is investors that can be really value add, have been there, done that, and can help us get to this next level, because there's a lot of things that we don't know as a founding team.
So at what point in your thinking, because it's maybe just thinking, no more than that, in which you're looking for VC money, is that already understanding that the round that you've done, the seed round or pre-seed round, where does it get you to the larger investment money that you need? Is it like a year away from now, or is it 2 to 3? Do you already have that in your head?
Yeah, we have it. We have it in our head. We're trying. So this is technically our seed round, right? Where we're raising 1.6. From us closing the round, we anticipate between 14 to 20 months until our next round of funding. And it really depends on if we're hitting our goals and our milestones to get to that next step, which would be a large Series A of, $7 to $10 million. There's a lot of thresholds we have to hit in order to get there. X amount of revenue, X amount of customers. We want to launch a few products before then and have our technology really dialed in. And so there's a few different factors that go into being able to raise that larger Series A, but that's what we're building towards within the next 14 to 20 months.
Right. So that's exactly what I was wondering, as to the scalability that you have to start moving through faster. You're still working on the current stage, but investors are coming on board because they think you have a highly scalable model. How much of it do they ask about an exit strategy?
Yeah, that's a big piece of it, right? Because investors want to know how they're going to get their money back. Again, the impact that we're making and creating in the world is great, but we're building a real business that's going to generate return for our investors. And so that's a big piece of it. There's different avenues that we have. I think we're building an extremely scalable company, and the investors that we have on board agree. So that's what we're building towards eventually. This isn't something that we want to sell off right away. We want to build, a lot of impact. We have a lot of cool things on our roadmap that we're working towards, and a lot of businesses that we plan on supporting before we get to that point where we're ready to sell. But it is our goal for, I would say, 5 to 7 years from now.
So let's spend a few minutes talking about the San Diego Angel Conference. From what I had heard when I was out there, the due diligence is at a very high level for the participants of the program that begins months before the actual conference. So how did due diligence go for you as you were approaching getting prepared for the conference?
Yeah, diligence was a long process. Again, it was interesting because we found our lead investor, which is the Climate Tech VC fund, in our round. And so we already went through the diligence process multiple times with the different VCs that are involved. And then this process was probably longer than the ones that we've been involved in the past. And so it was good for us because we already had a lot of the material prepared, but it was a challenge for sure. And they were very diligent in the diligence process and asked a lot of amazing questions, made you think about things that you might not have thought about before. And it really helps you sharpen up. I'm super happy that we went through that experience. I think it was great, win or lose, to have that, build all those materials up, because it's only making you sharper when you talk to other firms or investors. So I'm grateful for that opportunity.
What was the biggest thing you learned when you started to really rub elbows with investors? I'm sure there was the first one or two meetings, and maybe you were a little starry-eyed about, what their involvement could be, but eventually you sort of learned the ropes. And what did you conclude about being effective in speaking with investors?
I think it's just, it's tough because all investors, it's not one size fits all, right? Everybody is different. Everybody is looking for something different. Oftentimes there's conflicting advice that you're given from investors. And so I don't know if I've even necessarily figured it out yet. I think I have a lot of learning to go, and I'm sure I'll continue to experience that. I would just say the one piece of advice that has stuck with me is make sure you find investors that are aligned with your vision, because that's what's going to be really important. Not to just get them to say yes now, but you're going to be on this journey with them for the next 6 years, if not longer. And so having somebody by your side that gets it is extremely important.
You're not going to be able to speak to all of your investors. Eventually, you'll come up with a reporting style. But right now, are there a couple that you kind of feel there's a little bit of a personal bond forming of confidentiality and trust?
Yeah, I honestly feel that with all of our investors right now. I think I can call on any of them and they'll be there to support. I don't. I send monthly updates right now. So they're heavily engaged in the business. They know what's going on, whether it's good or bad. And then they always respond to that in a very supportive way, helping us out. In our monthly reports, we do different sections, highlights, updates, financials, challenges that we're facing, as well as asks from those investors. And whenever I send those asks, they're always really supportive. And that speaks for almost everybody on our team.
So as we wrap up, I guess I'm curious, as you've gone through the startup process, you've really done a great job in getting the investors. Is this a 7-day-a-week, 24-hour job? And are you getting enough sleep?
Well, I don't sleep the best, I'll tell you that. But yeah, it's full time, and there's constant highs and lows with a startup, as any startup will tell you. But I wouldn't trade it for anything. I love every second of it. So it's definitely a never-ending thing. Work never stops. There's always more work to be done, but I love it and I enjoy every second.
Well, that's a great way to wrap up, Trevor, is hearing that you're all in and you're prepared to, go the 24/7 or whatever it takes. So thank you for being a guest on Experienced Voices.
Thank you so much for having me. This is a lot of fun.
You have been listening to the podcast series Experienced Voices. To hear more and subscribe, visit AmericanEntrepreneurship.com/podcast, where you will also find a form for listener feedback.